Somebody shot my dad. I get the killer mentality. I come from murder and tragedy. Single burn home and family. Do this shit for my whole family. I'ma go get me a Grammy. You know that I'm missing you, Granny. Backbone to my whole family. I got to turn for the family.
So, Boobie, a lot of people say, you know, a lot of our kids or a lot of our young black men are acting this way because the fathers are not in the homes. How you feel about that or that statement?
I can believe that to a degree, you know. I can believe that to a degree because I work with youth in the juvenile justice system. So I got a front row seat to what they talking about. Just about all the youth on my caseload are like my kids. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
You
So
feel
what
what
are
I'm
they
saying?
talking? So what are they talking about? Because I think
Well,
you got the inside track. A lot of people might not even know what they're talking about.
well, with them, they just don't know. You'll be surprised how many of our young teenagers never been to the war. How many of them never been to the Navy Yard? I've taken them to these places they didn't even know they exist. I took a kid from Talbot Street to the Navy Yard. He told me, Mo, what's this? It's the Navy Yard. I walked him down to the water and I pointed to his neighborhood and said, that's Talbot Street right there. I say, so what did you think this was when you used to be standing up on the hill of Talbot Street? He had no clue. So that just goes to show you he's less than 5 minutes away. If he come down MLK, cross 11th Street Bridge and come down on the trail, he's at the Navy Yard. When he goes to Anacostia Park at some point of his life, which he probably had on multiple occasions, and he looks across the water, he has no clue what's even across the water. So that's the mentality that we dealing with. Like they are so confined to their environment that all they know is what they're afraid in their environment through interaction with people who like-minded through social media, because you're not gonna follow a lot of stuff on social media if you don't like it, right? Following soccer. I don't watch soccer. I'm not following a soccer page, right? I'm gonna follow rapper, I'm gonna follow the trapper. That's what I'm gonna follow. So I'm constantly being fed this negative all day. So when I get them and I start showing them stuff, surprise how they evolve because of that. You know what I'm saying? They really evolved because of the fact that I took them to places like that. Like I took a kid to H.O.W.L Grill on my caseload, and he wound up going back into the facility. But when I went to go see him in the facility, he was in there with the other youth, and he was telling the youth like, "Man, I had lobster tail." And man, tell them they thought he was lying because he'd been to H.O.W.L Grill.
Nah, man.
So just like
we seen
Grand Fest, stuff that's nothing to us.
Yeah.
To us, right?
Yeah, I think the same thing. We've seen the same thing. Me and Che bringing a lot of our young dudes up to the campus, man. Like that was the first time. They might have lived 15 minutes away from University of Maryland, but that's like that could be a lifetime away for many of them, right? So you know when they come up there, and I'm gonna tell you this the honest guy, truth, and Che could say this. Every time we brought any of our young dudes up to Maryland, and I'm gonna let Che finish it. When they were ready to go home, what did they say to us?
Man, how I roll in school, how I get here, this is where I want to be.
Every single time. How I get in the car, how can I enroll in here? Every single time. So it's just a matter of like exposure, really. And just going into the world outside of them 3-4 blocks that you live in.
And guess what? With that exposure that y'all exposed them to, y'all have made an indelible impact on those youngins to the point they'll never forget y'all. Whenever they talk about University of Maryland, I went there. I went with Doc and I went with Shay. They brought me up that jump. Man, I remember they took me. That'll be an indelible moment. You did something with them that they never done, right? And those moments will be relived because some of those moments will be passed on when they become parents.
Right.
Because I'm a prime example. I grew up, I had a charge, I had a serious offense. I wound up going to a group home, and I can just use this as an example. I had in the charge dealing with a firearm, right? And I wound up going to prison, to the juvenile facility for it. And when I got to the group home, one of the requirements was after you get to a certain level, you had to wear a shirt and tie. So I learned how to tie a tie, right? Not only did I learn how to tie a tie, I actually passed that down to my son. When my son was going to school last year, I think it was last year or year before last, he needed to tie his tie. He had his tie. And I said, you know how to tie a tie? He said, nah, I showed him how to tie a tie, but that was a skill that I picked up from being in a group home.
And I
You feel what I'm
also think,
saying?
just to touch back on, the guys on campus, 2, 3 of the guys that guest lectured, Dr. Richardson class, right?
Yeah.
They're sitting in front of 60 to 80 students and
Yes, lecture.
articulating, their story and what they've been through in life, right? And once they've done, a lot of them will say, "Man, I can't believe I just did that," or "It felt good," or "How can I do it again?" You know what I mean? So I think it's all about just giving them that platform and also letting them know that they have a voice, regardless of your criminal background, regardless where the fuck you grew up at, regardless of any of that shit. You got a voice. You know what I mean? And I think why so much duplicity going on is because with they're putting their voice on Instagram, right? They're voicing their emotions, their PTSD, their anxiety, all that shit is going on Instagram. You know what I mean? In my personal opinion, that's not the right place for it to go unless they're doing something constructive. You understand what I'm saying? So how can we get more guys to come up on campus and lecture these classes or go to these high schools and lecture the kids at the high schools? You know what I mean? And I told Dr. Richardson this when so I got hit up in 2013 and I became addicted to the University of Maryland, Boobie. I was up there out of 5 days a week. I was up there 4 days, every single day.
Every
You know
single
what I
day.
mean?
Every single day. Every single day Che came up there to the campus. And I remember him telling me, he was like, when we were going to start the program at the hospital, he was like, "Doc, I think you should start the program on campus." And at the time, it's like hospital-based violence intervention programs, they should be in the hospital. But what ultimately we learned, bringing a lot of the guys up to the campus, they were saying the same thing Che was telling me 3 or 4 years ago. They was like, "Doc, you should have a program up here."
Mm-hmm.
They telling me that. And I think that's the thing too, is like we try to impose on people what we think they want instead of listening to what they want. And,
Mm-hmm.
and targeting the resources around what they want instead of taking that mindset like we know better because we have some acronyms behind our name. We tend to be more educated. We in another social class. Like we think that we have the answers. That's wrong, totally off base and wrong.
Well,
Because once that started coming out, that's what they wanted, then that's how I started moving. Like we need to try to have a program up here. Unfortunately, a lot of the lack of innovation and a lot of intervention programs, they follow a cookie cutter approach. So they're not willing to think outside the box.
Well, I'll say this, and you made a very valid point about, having them, understand it and bringing them out of that environment. But one thing I could also speak on when dealing with the youth, and I hope that everybody just tuned in or whoever listened to this podcast, in the future, really understand is to listen to them, not just listen to them, respect their opinion. Don't
Exactly.
get
Mm-hmm.
disrespectful because their vision isn't yours. Not just that, we can't keep lying to these youngins. Let's get that out the way right now.
Mm.
They've been lied to so much that they don't believe nobody. And that's how I kind of like got a relationship with them because anything I tell them, I stand on it.
Mm-hmm.
I stand on it no matter what it is. I stand on it. And the reason I stand on it is because a lot of them been in positions where they've never had nobody to stand on. I have mothers tell me like, man, and that's the majority of the parents that I deal with with my cases is mothers. I think I've been doing this work for 2 years in the capacity that I'm doing it, where I have individual caseloads, and in a matter of 2 years, I only had dealt with one father.
Mm-hmm.
I only dealt with one father in a matter of 2 years, literally, right? So I've had a mother actually tell me, like, man, I greatly appreciate you. You the best thing that ever happened for my son because you're the first man that he was ever able to depend on that stood on his word. So we got to also go back to that too. We can't just tell these youngins anything because when we want to put it off because something else came up that's more joyful for us,
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
then you don't know how you scar that youngin, not just for yourself, but for those who come behind you.
That's
Because when
right.
they come behind you, what wind up happening when Doc shows up and say something, it's man, I ain't trying to hear that shit, or yeah, all right.
Mm-hmm.
You feel what I'm saying? So
Right.
you might really show up for your word, but they that stood you up. not because they don't believe your word, but because they didn't believe the word before yours. So
Yeah,
they went up and did whatever they was going to do because they didn't believe that you was coming to get them
right,
anyway.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
bull.
Mm-hmm.
that plays a major part. That's one of the biggest things that I
Yeah,
see, and not just from
And,
the parents. It happens in the system. It happens in agencies. It happens everywhere. It happens
you
all over.
You know why that's so important that you said? I'm so glad you said that, because the person that happens to, they check out. So they're
mm-hmm.
like, oh, the kid, oh, he stood me up, but really not understanding that that's the backstory to all of that. So you have people that might have good intentions that want to work with kids, and then that a negative situation like that'll happen, but they don't really understand the backstory, and then they check out of the situation like, I tried my best, but the kid just didn't really, he ain't show up, or I ain't connect with him, so I'm not going back out there anymore.
And and,
and
and
I and and I think we had a kid. Rest in peace to Monte Powers. I mean, we had a kid that wanted to go to college, and he went to take the test, right? But he did all that because that's what he wanted to do, and we were just there to support him.
Support it.
You know what I mean? And I
Right.
think that we wasn't, when we first met him, we wasn't judging him. And when he said he wanted to go to school, I've seen some people be like, "You want to go to school? What you want to do that for?" Right? We like, man, go ahead. Come on, let's take the test. We're gonna take you up there to take the test. And if you pass the test, we're gonna help you find money to go to school. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that because he knew that we were credible and everything we said we was gonna do, we did it. You know what I'm saying? That motivated him to go take the test even more. You understand what I'm saying? And when he passed the test, now we like, okay, now we're gonna look at, try to find you some money. I remember him telling me, man, I don't know how I'm gonna pay for this shit. And I said, look, man, don't worry about that right now. You know what I'm saying? Me, Doc, and the whole team, we're gonna find a way for you to get there. But then 6 months later, he did.
yeah.
You get what
And
I'm
that's
saying?
that's so sad and unfortunate, right? But with y'all established with that youth, and not just with that youth, with other adults, is credibility. So when y'all pull up and say something, they'll believe it. Because believe me, everybody's a mouthpiece for you, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's why your reputation precedes you, because you're spread by
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
We don't mail resumes to neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody vouch for you. In the hood, there's no resume to say, oh, he shot 22 people and he sold
Mm-hmm.
15,000 keys. Nah, somebody say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
Doc, good dude, man, and they
Mm-hmm.
might give him a little bit of your backstory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that, and I know that for myself, just from me going through what I went through, even with me being shot when I got paralyzed, right? I share that story with some of the youth, and I've had some youth that's not some. I'm not even gonna say youth, young men that's not even on my caseload that I'm just cool
Mm-hmm.
with, who reached out through social media. I got a guy that reached out to me. He's paralyzed right now, and the first person he could thought about calling me was me. Once he came to his senses and understood his situation, because he wanted advice. He wanted me to tell him, hey, you need, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. I'm not telling you you're going to be able to walk again like me. I'll never say that dream. But what I'm telling you is just keep going and keep pushing, because if you give up, then there's no opportunity for get back. But if you keep pushing, who knows what can happen? I was just blessed and lucky to be able to get back on my feet after being shot in my spine. So, like, that's motivation for him.